stuff.
So I'll call the meeting to order. First, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. If I can get up out of my chair. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll have the roll call.
Of course. So I have Acting Chair Olive Horning.
Present.
I have Member Carmelo Okendo.
Present.
I have Member Richard Estill.
Present.
Member Patrice Campbell.
Here.
Member Bobby Bryant.
Here.
I have Member Elizabeth Lamug as an excused absence. Member Tony Jones.
Here.
We're ready for opening business. Member Jones, did you have something you wanted to say before I open the floor?
No, under opening business, I think we have election of
Yes.
a new chair, and I would nominate you, Miss Horning, if you will accept.
Yes, that's fine with me. I'll accept that.
Okay, and there has to be a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All right. It's been moved and seconded that I'm nominated for the chair, and we need to vote with a verbal vote. So is she polling us? Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry. What
You have to poll us to vote
To
on me to
vote
be
on
chair.
Miss Horning being nominated for
all
chair.
in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
And
I'll say aye, but I'm not supposed to vote for myself.
so,
And then the vote passes. Thank
okay,
you.
and if I could
Okay.
continue, Madam Chair?
Okay.
With her consent, I would like to nominate Bobby Bryant for vice chair.
I'll accept that.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it passes. Thank you.
So we now have duly elected chair and vice chair. I wish you well in your terms of service. I know you're both going to do an excellent job. And just so you know, I feel like I need to speak to this. I think that both Carmelo and Mr. Estelle are excellent members, and either one could do the job. But one of the things that attracted me to nominate Miss Horning is Miss Horning is always here on time for the work sessions and the meetings, and her attendance record is stellar. And Miss Bryant is most always here, even if she comes in at 5:59. She is always here, and she has been on the board long enough they both have been on the board long enough to know how to conduct the business of the group. And these gentlemen are wonderful members. They're fairly new. They've been our alternates, and they are coming up to speed, and I'm confident they too will have their turn in the future. And I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree.
Chair Horning, may I add to that?
Yes.
Just for the record, there was a clerical error in the paperwork. So just for the record, to be clear about what Member Jones is alluding to, is that Member Okendo and Estelle did get letters notifying them of their positions of chair and vice chair. That was a clerical error, so that is being corrected right now. I did want to, even though you all voted and made a decision, I did want you to take note of the papers that I just passed out. you beat me to it, Member Jones. But on there, you will see basically the length of service for each board member. And so what Member Jones said is true. We've got, actually, Member Jones, you've been one of the longest. You should have self-nominated. But we've got, so we've got Member Bryant and Chair Horning now. So you see, as far as the length of their term of service, this does make a lot of sense from an experience perspective. So I just wanted to add that for everybody's benefit. So keep these on you, with your HPV files, just so you have it. And know that we have the 2 positions for the alternates are still vacant. So we hope that potentially by the next weekend, our alternates may be filled at that point.
After having watched, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yeah. Yes.
After having watched the last 2 meetings where the city council discussed the issue of alternates, they passed up some people, and it seems like they're looking for alternates who listed the Historic Preservation Board as their first choice of boards. So hopefully those will come along.
Madam Chair, can I speak to that?
Yes.
Because I did have a concern. So now that Member Clark has stepped down, I just wanted to bring to the attention that I was looking at our Historic Preservation Board and what we currently make up. There were different categories that we needed to have, which was places of business, people that serve in our historic, which we've got. We've got businesses, we have residents, and we also have, historians that sit on our board. But now that Mr. Clark has stepped down, we are missing architecture or construction or engineering, and that does concern me since we are,
Required.
passing, judgment calls and things like that. So is there a way that when they do look at those alternates, one thing, as Ms. Jones had stated, that they are wanting to be on the Historic Preservation Board first, but we're really looking for somebody like that. In my opinion, I don't know where the rest of the board stands, and I don't know that, I could be wrong, I don't know that Mr. Oquendo or Mr. Still would fill that gap, would we?
No, I'm a realtor.
Yeah, so I just did want to bring that to the attention. In my opinion, I think we do need at least somebody in one of those
And
fields.
I fill the gap of a planner.
Okay, all right, good.
But I support that too, that we do need an
Yes.
architect on the committee.
We absolutely do. And maybe someone could convey that to the city council.
So I would ask the board secretary, Crizia, if she can convey that to the city clerk, that it's the board's wishes that the position that is filled is a position that we have a need for. Crizia, I'll give you a little bit more guidance. We'll talk outside the meeting, and she can relay that to the city clerk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good thing to point out.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll go on then to the next order of business, and that's the approval of minutes. I hope you all have had a chance to look over the work session minutes and the regular meeting minutes. So let's talk about the work session minutes first. Are there any corrections or additions that you see that need to be made? Okay, then, all right, then let's, would somebody move to accept the work session minutes?
So move.
Okay, it's moved by Tony, and we need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you. All right, now we look at the board minutes. I see something on the last page of them. I think there's just a word that's been left out, and it's just under the adjournment. Motion to approve adjournment by Member Jones and seconded by Member, and there's no name on there. And I think it was just a clerical error, probably.
Correct. I will make those adjustments before you sign.
So do you have that written down somewhere about who it was?
I would have to look back.
We can go back to the meeting audio to get the
Oh,
answer
okay.
to that question.
Okay, all right, so, then then the minutes could probably be approved with the addition of that name on there then. Okay,
Okay, then I would so move.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, so the board minutes have been approved, and
Make sure you
seconded.
got who seconded that.
She spoke a little bit ahead of me.
Just speak up.
All right,
Member Campbell, I think, beat you to it right now.
all right, moving right along to old business, and I think Ms. Dalton has something to say about that.
I do, and you all see that I have a huge smile on my face. So I am thrilled to say that I did meet with both the Main Street Board, their Economic Restructuring Committee, as well as the city manager and the Community Development Director, and we have an approved program. So we now have a plaques and awards program in place, and I'm going to go ahead and hand out the application forms to all four of those for your review, suggestions for any corrections, and then for your vote. Keeping in mind that the design of them I have not included in this document because we are still tweaking some things as far as cost goes and the actual finer details of the design. I want to give you some information specific to this program. So there is a meeting on March 27th. That's going to have 2 members of St. Cloud Main Street, and it's going to have the city manager and the community development director. They're going to be attending on the city's behalf, and I will be attending as well. So we're going to be talking about the event during that meeting, and we're going to hash out all the finer details about the design criteria and the different things like that. So that will all be completely finalized, but it's not preventing you all from voting on the application form. That's just an attachment to the form. And we have a date for our event set. So if everyone will note this important date, because we do really want to see all of the HPB members in attendance at the event. That event is going to be May 15th at 6 p.m. I would say to please allocate 2 hours for the event if you want to volunteer to help put the event on.
I'm sorry, which event is that?
This is our Preservation Month event, which we're going to unveil to the public.
Okay, Preservation Month event on May
Yeah.
15th.
We're going to unveil the Plaques and Awards program officially to the public at that event,
And that's May 15th.
May 15th, 6 p.m.
Do we have a location already?
VFW Hall. Yep. Now, asking for you all to plan to allocate 2 hours, but if any of you want to volunteer to help put the event together, do let me know, and just plan to allocate 3.5 hours if you are going to be volunteering for the event. Just the other note I have here is the purpose of the committee meeting on March 27th is to discuss the schedule of activities for the event, as well as the cost share between St. Cloud Main Street and the city, and the design criteria for our actual plaques and our awards, what they're going to look like. So with that, I'm going to hand out the application forms here. Welcome your feedback on how these may be improved.
And more information on the March 27th meeting?
That's the one with 2 members of St. Cloud Main Street.
Okay,
March 27th is the meeting with 2 members of St. Cloud Main Street and two representatives from the city and myself. That's the one that we're going to discuss the details of the event, so scheduling of the event.
okay, so that's not us.
That's not you all.
Okay,
Yeah, but I did want you to know that that was coming up.
okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. Go.
This two box.
Oh, there's 2 different ones. Well,
Yeah, one's for the awards and the other's for the plaque.
I did incorporate some suggestions that you all had provided in a past meeting, so I think I have addressed the various items that we discussed. But now that you have it in front of you, you may see some other things that you may want to have covered in here.
May I ask a question? I thought the application fee was going to be 25.
Yes.
It's showing 50.
Oh, we discussed 50, sorry. We did discuss 25, and I had told you all I wasn't sure if that was going to be reasonable to cover staff time and processing and all of that, so we have 50 right now. That is one of the things that we will revisit on March 27th. So that may change, but right now I think it's going to stay at 50.
Okay.
Not sure. These fees will still have to be adopted and approved by council, so there may be further adjustment when it gets to them too, so we don't know.
I just wanted to confirm, I believe I recall us discussing it. On the one, it said, please submit your application associated fee. The $300 included the staff fee and the plaque.
Correct. That's what we are suggesting, yes.
Okay.
I have a question on criteria for the preservation awards criteria and application, this one. Okay, so the property must be located within the St. Cloud city limits and must be a minimum of 50 years old. So does it have to be in the historic district? No, it doesn't have to be. Okay. Okay.
For both of these, we want to try to have a greater reach of historic preservation outside the district, so it's looked at being a citywide thing. So if somebody restores their house and it's a block away from the lakefront and they're outside of the district, we want to recognize that. Additionally, if they have a historic house and they're outside of the district, just because they're not districted doesn't mean their house isn't historic. So,
Okay, thank you.
So will there be a set number of awards that we'll be giving out per year?
we haven't gotten to that yet. I would recommend that the first year that we do it, probably keep it at maybe 2. But the reality of the situation is, it's going to be what
2 per category.
Yeah, yeah. But the reality of the situation is, if you have really worthy projects, you don't want to put this artificial kind of control on it, where if you've got 4 really spectacular award-winning projects, give 4 awards. So you'd be happy to have that issue. But I think these are things, as the program goes on, the little things that will get tweaked about it.
Okay. I mean, I think especially initially starting out, the more awards we give, it's gonna, until it gets.
Increase interest.
Exactly, and until it gets like a substantial cost that we'll have to,
Yeah.
say 5
Yeah.
a year or something.
Yeah. I mean, it really does help to build that community pride and interest in other people when they see awards being given out. It's like, oh, well, I'm planning a rehab. Maybe I'll make sure that I do it in such a way that I get an award too. So,
Does anyone else have any questions for her? Okay, well, thank you very much. I think these are looking pretty good.
so I would like for the board to actually make a motion and vote on these so we can continue moving forward. So if you're okay with what they look like and don't have any changes to suggest.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then for the funding of these. Is
No,
that what
this-
you said?
This is the program has been approved by the city and the
Okay.
collaboration, but you're now approving the application forms
Oh,
and the
the
content of
application
the
forms, yes.
Which the forms
Okay.
include, basically, the whole layout of the program is in these forms. So you're not approving the program, that's coming from city management, but the forms, which will cross your desks
Right.
once a year, and they're historic preservation related, so that's what I'm looking for you all to vote on. Basically, the application forms and the content of them.
All right. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then from someone to approve these forms.
I'll make a motion to approve the historic preservation plaque application forms as written. And the awards as written. Sorry.
I'll make a second.
There was a second, I think, but oh, okay, all right, fine. All right, so it has been moved and seconded to approve these application forms as written. And so now we'll just take a vote on that. So this is all,
All in favor?
yes, I think you're polling.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed.
Okay, all right, the motion passed. Good. All right, moving on then, we have, that's all you were going to talk about the awards, right?
Thank
All right,
you.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you. New business, the certificate of appropriateness for 1135 New York Avenue. I made sure I looked at that when I came down New York today. All right. So I guess, do we have the people here?
Yes.
Oh, all right, so I'll give you the floor.
You're ready for me? Okay. So we have a request at 1135 New York Avenue to convert an existing single-family residential building into a commercial/retail building. I just want to kind of qualify that there was a commercial business in it before, but no alterations had been done to the structure, just to clear up any confusion that there might be about that statement. So I'll just read this from the staff report. The applicant is requesting approval from the Historic Preservation Board to amend a previously issued certificate of appropriateness to modify and convert an existing single-family residential structure into a commercial retail location. The structure is located at 1135 New York Avenue, and that is shown in Figure 1 here. The previous approval allowed for modification to the roof design and material only, which we are referring to as Phase 1 of the project. Phase 2 of the project, exterior modifications to walls, doors, and windows, was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Board on March 8th, 2022. So we're very happy to see them back here after such a long time. At that time, the board approved installation of a handicap ramp on the south elevation and continued the request for exterior modifications, directing the applicant to, and I quote, "provide clearer drawings with proper elevations and updated information to meet the city's architectural standards, including door and window changes." So the scope of work that we have here is conversion of an existing single-family residential building into a commercial/retail building. This consists of removal of the existing roof, replacement with a new roof, and creation of a covered outdoor space, which we are calling Phase 1. There we go. As well as modifications to each elevation, Phase 2, which include the removal and replacement of windows and doors, removal of vinyl siding, installation of fiber cement siding. For the scope of work, I just want to speed up a little bit in the staff report to elaborate the scope by each elevation. So the Phase 2 request is being detailed as the following. For the west elevation, it's relocation of entry door and installation of a new solid wood 2-panel 6-light door. Oops. Not sure, oops, sorry guys. That's gonna be in your packet. I thought I had it on the overhead here. Installation of entry stairs, removal of existing windows and replacement with new 2/2 windows with simulated divided lights, and removal of existing vinyl siding and replacement with fiber cement siding. On the east elevation, it's calling for removal of a window, removal of entry door and installation of new solid wood 6-panel door, and removal of existing vinyl siding and replacement with fiber cement siding. On the north elevation, we have removal of all windows and closing of the window openings, 6x6 wood posts to support new roof extension, and removal of existing vinyl siding and replacement with fiber cement siding. On the south elevation, removal of existing windows and replacement with new 2/2 windows with simulated divided lights, window openings to be modified and relocated, removal of existing vinyl siding and replacement with fiber cement siding. I did want to note that those 6x6 wood posts supporting the new roof extension, that's actually going to be visible from 3 elevations. I only had it noted on 1, but it will be visible on 3. As you see from that Phase 1 approval, I'll put it up here again. Okay. Some information about the background of this building. The structure is located within the city's commercial business district, CBD1, and within the boundaries of the city's historic preservation district. The 1,122 square foot structure was built in 1915. It had been previously categorized as potentially contributing on the historic district map. However, that previous approval that had been granted a while back, based on the change of use from residential to a commercial function, placed this property in a non-contributing status. So right now, we're looking at changes to a non-contributing building. The building's elevations are reflected in the following figures 2 to 5. Let me know if I'm going too fast. The existing roof presently is a cross-gabled roof with shed extensions over the west and north elevations. I'm going to show that figure right here, so you can see what the existing roof looks like. That has been approved to be removed and a new roof placed on there. The previously issued COA allowed for replacement of the existing roof structure and addition of an outdoor space that will be covered by a new roof. The outdoor space, size 40 feet by 22 feet 8 inches, does not contain walls and will be supported by 6 inch by 6 inch posts. The addition of the new roof and outdoor space will be integrated into the existing structure. The issuance of the COA for Phase 1, as we're calling it, acknowledged that the form and integrity of the original design would be impacted in such a way that reversal would be difficult. Figure 7 reflects that proposed design that I keep referring to. Any questions thus far? Okay, so the information detailed in your staff report contains verbatim excerpts from ordinance number 2018-57, which is the St. Cloud Historic Preservation Ordinance, overlay ordinance. And a full copy of the ordinance can be obtained through St. Cloud website or by requesting through the board secretary. This is a quasi-judicial matter, and remind the board members that as such requires disclosure of all ex parte communications, investigations, site visits, and expert opinions regarding this matter. In your ordinance additional criteria, under Division 24, Article 3 of your ordinance, Section 3.24.8 applies to this project, and I've listed all of those. So I will start with that. So I'm gonna just identify what item it is and the comments. So these are all things that relate to new construction as well as alterations. So the first one is setting, orientation, and setbacks are detailed in the ordinance. And it says the building should be situated approximately the same distance from the street as adjacent historic buildings to create a continuous street edge. The orientation of the building should be visually compatible with that of the buildings in the historic district at street level. The setting should be designed with the overall environment in mind, and it should take into account the compatibility of landscaping, parking, service areas, walkways, and accessory structures. Staff's comments are, the creation of the outdoor seating area under roof achieves the goal of situating the building approximately the same distance from the street as adjacent historic buildings to create a continuous street edge. Building height, the height of the building at street level, i.e. from a 15-foot perspective, should be visually compatible in comparison or relation to the height of the existing contributing buildings in the district. So the comments are, staff comments, the building height with new roof approved as Phase 1 is visually compatible in comparison or relation to the height of the existing contributing buildings in the district. Item 3, design styles. New buildings should take their design cues from the prevailing architectural styles within the historic district. Traditional or contemporary design standards and elements should relate to the existing styles. Staff's comments, the proposed alterations take some of their design cues from prevailing architectural styles within the historic district. For example, the installation of 2/2 divided light windows. 4, proportion of openings. The openings of any building within a historic district should be visually compatible with the openings in existing contributing buildings within the historic district. The relationship of the width of windows and doors to the height of windows and doors should be visually compatible with the existing contributing buildings within the historic district at street level. Staff comments are the proposed openings are visually compatible with openings in existing contributing buildings within the historic district. I just want to pause there to give you an opportunity to look at the drawings of each elevation. I did want to point out that the windows that are being proposed, the scale, the dimensions of those windows are more in line with what the original historic windows would have looked like. You can see that those windows were changed over time. Those window openings were modified, so they did not look, visually compatible with the buildings of that age. With the new windows that they're putting in, they're bringing it back to something that's more visually compatible to that time period. So I just wanted to point that out and give you an opportunity to look at the drawings if you'd like. You ready for me to go on? Okay. Rhythm of solids to voids. The relationship between solids, walls, and voids, windows, and doors of a building should be visually compatible with the surrounding buildings at street level. Staff comments, the relationship between solids, walls, and voids, windows, and doors are visually compatible with the surrounding buildings at street level. Rhythm of spacing along the street. The relationship of buildings to the open space between them should be compatible with the other buildings on each side of the street in that block. Comment here is that the building is existing, so the relationship of the building to open spaces between it is not compatible with other buildings in the district, in the block, I'm sorry, but it's sitting where it's sitting. We're not going to be changing that. Relationship of materials and textures. The material and textures of a building should be chosen with the predominant materials of the historic district in mind to the greatest extent possible. Simplicity in such use is preferable. Staff comments are the materials and textures of the building have been chosen to be in character with the predominant materials of the historic district, and they are simple in design. Roof shapes. The roof shape of a building is a major distinguishing feature. The roof shape of the building should be compatible with the roof shape of existing contributing buildings within the historic district. The roof shape shall be consistent with the architectural style of the building to the maximum extent possible. My comment here is the roof was previously approved as Phase 1, so this is not part of your review today. And size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume. The physical size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume should be compatible with the existing contributing buildings within the historic district at street level, and where appropriate, may be stepped back above 35 feet in building height. So staff comments are the physical size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume is compatible with the existing contributing buildings within the historic district at street level. You'll note in your staff report, it does say additional comments or recommendations may be presented by staff at the meeting. So I did have some things to add because there are some things that transpired since the staff report was done and sent out to you. And once it leaves, we can't take it back. We could correct it at the meeting. So I did meet with the applicant and we discussed that the building presently has vinyl siding. So the building is wrapped and we can't see what the original siding is beneath that. So I did issue an approval on a minor review for a COA for them to remove all that vinyl siding to do a visual inspection of the original siding beneath it. We don't know what's there. So you'll note that the applicant is asking to be able to replace the siding with the fiber cement siding. My recommendation for you as a board is to consider that only after the vinyl siding is removed and there's an opportunity for a visual inspection. Because if the original siding is intact beneath there, you all don't want to go ahead and approve something where you don't even know what it looks like yet. So if you're going to approve that fiber cement siding, you might want to do that with the caveat that you get to see what the original siding looks like beneath that, and maybe come up with some reasonable percentage that you feel retains original character or doesn't. So let me clarify what I mean. If there's 25% of original siding left, maybe you go ahead and approve the fiber cement siding. If there's 80% of original siding left, fiber cement siding, you may not want to approve that. So just something for you all to think about, but I did want to add that. Do y'all have any questions about that?
So, may I
Yes.
ask? So basically, you're saying that if they remove the vinyl siding and they realize that there is a good amount of the original siding there, do they have to come back to the board, or is it automatically determined that they will then restore the original siding, or do they have to come back before they?
I am recommending that you include that information in your motion. And what you could do is you could direct staff to do that inspection and make that determination by giving staff some parameters about what percentage roughly you think should be. You know, if it's original of this percentage, then we want original kept, which would mean that on areas that original is missing, that they would have to have the siding milled, replicated, and keyed in. Or if there's really a minimal amount of that original siding there, then you may say it's so minimal that we feel like there's really been a loss of historic fabric here. So we're going to recommend that we're okay with the fiber cement siding. That's completely up to you. It's just a recommendation that I'm giving you all to consider.
Very familiar with this building. And since the original construction in 1915, there have been multiple additions on this building. Those additions are not going to have the same material underneath. If the addition was put on in the 60s, it's probably going to have asbestos. If it was put on in the 70s, it's probably the vinyl siding. So to your point, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but as a business owner and property owner as well, I would be perfectly fine if they could find a cement fiberboard that replicated the appearance of the original siding.
I don't know of any fiber cement board that replicates the appearance of original. It is horizontal lap siding. That's where the replication ends. And that's why I was recommending, you all have an unknown in front of you.
True
It's an
statement.
unknown until that vinyl siding is removed. So what you think is reasonable, because what you're saying is entirely true. There are different additions on this building built at different time periods, so we don't know what is there. So if it winds up being that it's just a patchwork and it's not reasonable, then you can make your motion to where it has that condition in it. But you may be surprised. You know, sometimes additions were built with salvage materials. You just never know until that siding comes off and you could get a visual on it. So I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I think it would be wise to know what you're dealing with and what it actually looks like. And if, you know, I always tell historic preservation boards, you all are not the look better board, but it really is about historic character and original materials. So if you have original materials there, you don't want to replace them. You're the historic preservation board. You don't want to go replacing original materials with new materials if they're intact and they're serviceable and all of that. So that's just my recommendation.
Understood.
What portion, like, so when you're looking at as in regards to what Mr. Still is saying, the original structure was built in 1915. It's the 1,122 square foot structure. Is that first half of it? And then the rest was what was added on?
So let's see if my pointer works. I always have trouble with this. Where is the pointer? There it is. Let me try this. Okay. Might have to look behind you. So this here,
That was the original.
that would actually have been an open porch. So that would be original roof. That had an open porch, so that open porch was enclosed. So that wall at that line right there, I've actually been inside there. There is an original wall there. This is going to be an interior wall no matter what, so you can't actually, regulate that, but I'm just giving you that for information. This under here, under this gable roof is original. this here, under this gable, see it's a cross gable roof. This gable is original, this is original. All the additions are mostly, so we have the enclosure of the porch and the additions on the north side. I've discussed this with their project team, and I think that they are going to run into on that north side where it may be a patchwork on the north side. So then that's where you all have to make a decision. If you've got original here, you've got original here, you know, you've largely got original. What action do you want to take on the north side? Do you want that action to apply to the whole building? This is something that you all are going to have to
Because
decide.
even that other side that we're referring to, that the addition is where there could be a different material, you really can't see that from the street. What you would see is the other side, if most of this other part is original, that could be, and that would be visible. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe the information I saw was incorrect. My understanding with this property was that the cross gable was added in the 50s. The original building is only that small roof
Here.
there. That is the original structure. And that is why I was questioning what I was, because to my understanding, from what I saw of it, everything beyond that was an addition. It was only about 400 square feet at its construction. And that's why the addition of the second fireplace came in the later years.
So
Not
anything.
100% you sure of that, but if we could,
Anything 50 years or older is something that you should consider historic building
Okay.
materials. So always use the 50-year rule as
Okay.
your kind of starting point. But, you know, again, until it's removed, it's going to be difficult to determine some of those things.
Okay.
We don't have
I
architectural
just wanted
drawings
some
or.
clarification on what we were talking about, original versus addition, and whether the addition would fall into that time frame as well. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Did we ever determine if this location was a mail order building?
We did a lot of research when we were working on the National Register nomination, and we could not, we looked through all kinds of records, newspaper
Okay.
records, you know, any kind of building records we could get. Archives at the museum, we were not able to come up with any other kit homes
Okay.
that we identified, so this was not
Okay.
one that was identified.
Are the petitioners here?
Yes, we're not to that point yet.
Okay,
Did you all have any other questions?
I don't.
I do. I know we've been talking about the siding, but the roof line, so they're going to be changing the whole roof line from what it was.
This was a prior approval of the
Okay,
board some time
okay,
ago.
right.
It was actually before I even started working with you all.
Okay,
So they have an approval for that.
okay.
So if there aren't any other questions, I'm just going to finish my part here with the staff recommendation. And in addition to the things I just suggested, so keep that in mind about the siding, I am recommending that the HPP approve the request for certificate of appropriateness for modifications to each elevation, Phase 2, which include the removal and replacement of windows and doors, removal of vinyl siding, and installation of fiber cement siding. And I'm suggesting that caveat that the fiber cement siding only be installed after determination of original historic fabric and what percentage that is, or roughly what percentage that is. I'm done with my part.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a suggestion as far as, in your experience, percentages that we might want to consider if it's good? I mean, we can throw around numbers, 65, 75, 85, but like what's realistic or that you've seen in your?
You know, I think if you have intact on full elevations, it would be a shame to sacrifice an entire elevation that may have, you know, 5% damage or patchwork, and now you're sacrificing it for the whole building. It's really difficult to say. Some of that is a judgment call. It's really hard for me to give you some direction on that. It's going to be what the board thinks, and if you all want to put that determination in my hands to work with the applicant and then have the applicant only return if we can't come to an agreement, that's also want to minimize how many times the applicant has to come back to you all. But if you want to give some direction in that regard, and I can review the condition of the siding and give, my take on it, if you give me that authority, if I feel comfortable, then I could sign off on it. And if we come to an impasse with the applicant, if I come to an impasse with the applicant, then we would then have to return it to HPB. So that gives a little bit of flexibility to meet out, do a site visit, look at things, discuss it, all of that. See the conditions. There may be intact siding, but it might be termite damaged. So, there's a lot of things to look at, so it's really hard to say. So I would leave that up to you all. It's just such an unknown because it's covered over right now.
Can I ask one more question? When it comes to the siding, Bobby had mentioned that the north side, or you had mentioned that the north side was the addition, and that I
actually think it's more than one addition on the north side.
on the north side?
Yeah, there was like a front porch and then a side porch, and things got closed in and morphed into, yeah.
So the side that faces New York and the side that faces, I guess it would be 12th Street, if that is original, would it be unreasonable if the siding's pulled off and that original siding is still there and it looks good, to keep that, but if the other side is not the original siding, to do something different with that? Can you mix and match like that?
In an ideal world, it would be rehabbed to be consistent, and the applicant would probably want that as well. However, it is an opportunity to tell a story about the building and to show that this is one time period and these are the things that happen. So, if you're looking at it from a historical perspective, you could, as a board, have reason to approve that. So saying this is original and this is the 1915 elevation, this side had this going on, so we're going to approve it. It is a non-contributing building, so it's not contributing to your upcoming National Register designation. So and I bring that up because if you recall on previous discussions, the contributing, non-contributing, that's important because eventually they could get tax incentives. It's not contributing. They're not going to be able to be eligible for that anyway. Right. So, I'm not going to be as focused on protecting that for a future owner because it really has been very altered. Does that make sense?
Madam Chair, if I could
Yes.
interject something here.
Yes.
There is a big difference between what we would like to have happen and what is reality. And so what we're trying to do is to reconcile it somehow. And it almost sounds like there's so much that's unresolved. This may be premature coming to us. Maybe some of these things should have been answered before it even came before the board.
I had recommended that to the applicant, which is the reason why I signed off on the vinyl siding to be removed. The applicant chose not to do so, so that's going to be up to you. I would like to see this project move forward. This is going to be entirely up to you. The only unknown that we have right now is the siding. Like I said, I did try to resolve that. I have recommended to the applicant in the past, and I recommended recently that they remove all the vinyl siding so we know what we're working with. They removed a very small area on the north elevation. That does not give the story of the whole thing. So that's going to be entirely up to you.
Okay, thank you.
What do we find when we remove that small portion?
There was wood siding on that side, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. The condition of it is questionable, but it was wood horizontal lap siding on that side.
Which that was not the original.
Correct. Yeah.
No, but it's reality of what's there.
Right. Or could be.
Could be.
And what could be historic to maintain. if it's
Right.
still-
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think it might be time to hear from the petitioner.
Hello, I'm David Camacho. It's been a year since we've been here. It's good to see some of the same faces, and I see some new faces as well. we are, again, very passionate about trying to rehab this building. And I know that Christine is very passionate, and so are you guys, about historic preservation. So we're doing what we can within our financial constraints as well. So, we're locals, we live here, we're investing here. We're trying to get this done in a manner that is both financially feasible for us. Some of these things we've had to go back to the drawing board. We were here last year trying to get the posts put on the outside, and that was denied. So that's okay. We're here. We're back again. So we're gonna really try to get this done in a way that really brings out the character of downtown historic St. Cloud. It's why we purchased here. So we really hope you can take that into consideration, though I know that monetary things are not supposed to be considered, but we are trying, working with Christine to get this done in a manner that is compromisable, if you will. So if you have any other questions, I can answer as much as I possibly know.
I actually do have one. I understand you removed a small area of the vinyl siding.
Yes.
If the vinyl, is your intent to take the vinyl siding off anyway?
It is now. It wasn't originally, because again, we were trying to work within our financial constraints.
I understand.
And not knowing what's underneath there was just gonna add another layer of possible
Sure.
cost. At this point, it seems like it is more reasonable to just remove it, because we're gonna be changing the window sizes anyway. There's gonna be patchwork done, because where the windows are gonna be made to more a historic timeline of the way Christine had outlined in the historic preservation. So with that in mind, there's gonna be patchwork done, whether it's with the milled wood that Christine had talked to us about, or the fibrous cement board. And we also we're petitioning to remove the elevation on the north side that is not seen from New York and 12th, to remove the windows. And that was done more along the lines of, because what we're doing on the inside, we don't really need windows on that exterior. So that was also part of the petition for today as well. So I believe it's on the proposed elevations that you guys have in front of you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I know that side of the building, although it doesn't face the road, it's still fairly exposed.
Yeah.
Because of the open lot between you and the adjacent business. I'm actually right behind you. So
There you
I've been watching to see what's going on with that one.
Yeah.
I do agree with Christine. If there is good bones under there, I'd like to see them stay.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is anything over 25% damage is going to result in a financial infeasibility to do the custom millwork. And it would be more practical from a business standpoint, I understand, to go with the cement board at that point. Custom millwork is insanely expensive right now. That's why I was looking for an alternative for you. If there is a company that makes a suitable, comparable in appearance material that would be more cost-effective and have a longer life expectancy, I think that would be the ideal solution if we could. But if it's at 75% original material and it can be used, that's kind of where I'm at on it. But anything less than that, I think would be problematic.
I agree. You got four sides. At least if three of the sides are with original material, we need to get the last side done the same way.
But, because we've had this discussion before, to me, the custom millwork sounds expensive, but there are locations you can go to where they have demoed older homes, and they do have siding that possibly would be comparable to what you have up there, that you should be able to purchase at a discounted price and be able to use it on the building, as opposed to going to a location and have them customize those strips of wood. I would think you would have that option.
Yeah, we would be amenable to those, anything like that. You know, we just want to get this going. So,
Yeah.
you know, we've been sitting on it for 2 years now, so we really just want to get this going. You know, beautified and updated, and
Right.
so we're
See, but
working
we-
with Christine.
We're talking a lot about costs and about financial obligation, but my understanding as a member of this board, though, is really more about the historic preservation of the property, which when you purchase a historic preservation, or when you would purchase a historic property, that kind of goes with the territory a little bit as well. So I don't necessarily know how much we should factor in, no offense to anybody, the cost that it's going to cost to repair it to preserve our historic heritage. I don't know how much that should really play a factor in that.
Yeah, that is true. That
If
is
it
true.
were a contributing building, I would
But it's
be
not.
in agreement with that, but it is not. And that's where my difference comes in. I think we have to weigh both sides of it, given the fact that it's not it's a non-contributing building at this point.
Sure.
So are we ready to is anybody ready to make a motion?
Well, we need to see if anyone else in the audience would like to
Oh, that's
testify.
true. Yes. Is there someone else who would like to speak? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, excuse me, Chairman Horning, don't we need to come upon a percentage that we've determined to be
Well,
what we're looking
That
at?
would be part of the motion.
Would it, okay.
Yeah. So, I'm not hearing from anybody else in the audience out there who wishes to speak. Okay, oh, yes?
Oh, no.
My name's Tony Campbell, and I guess the question is, if the building is 1915, the addition is 1960, would it be okay with the applicant to make the 1915 part stay the way it was, and the 1960 part stay the way it was, basically like the St. Cloud Hotel? They had the addition put on, so the addition has to be what the addition was, and the original hotel has to be what the original hotel was. That's just a question, I guess, for the applicant to see if if that's something that they want to look at, or if their board wants to look at.
That's a good point.
Any comments from the board?
As Christine mentioned, there's, if I understood correctly, there's not a lot of historic record for this property like there was for the hotel. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That would, in an ideal world, that would probably be an amenable solution. But we don't have the historic backing to know what it looked like.
All you have is what's physically there right now.
Right.
So, and.
Right, and
you
the
know,
differences in construction styles between all the different areas of the building.
Yeah, you might find that they remove the vinyl on the north side and the siding may not be an exact match, but it might be close. I mean, the fact that they removed a small section and it is wood siding that looks very similar, that's a, kind of a positive sign, but again, we don't know. As you do your discussion about percentages and things like that, just to keep, I always talk about legally defensible decisions, just a reminder, you're really looking at original historic fabric. So as you're talking about percentages, saying like siding match and things like that, we've got vinyl out there. There might be, as you said, asbestos tile on that. So I would just be clear in the record that we're talking about original historic fabric and define what you consider original. So if you're saying anything 50 years or older, that's original, then just when you're talking about percentages, I would recommend that. Does that confuse you more or okay.
No.
I think my biggest concern with this property in particular is the number of various additions over the years. There's not going, and I may be wrong, but I do not see that there is going to be a consistent appearance underneath that vinyl siding.
Okay. And that discussion needs to be to the motion. That's probably best.
But if we make that the motion, we're kind of saying it's not going to be consistent with that. We don't even know yet what,
We
and
don't
then
know
what the
what the
percentage
motion's,
is
we don't
consistent.
know what the motion's gonna be, because no one's made one.
If you want to take a pause and make some notes, I always recommend that. Make sure if you make any notes that you give them to the board secretary after. But that might help you to keep the sequence of, if anybody's planning to make the motion, to keep the sequence of what you want to move clear. And you may also want to look at your scope of work and specifically the elevations for phase 2, which you'll find on page 5. That might be helpful for you as well.
Well, I'm looking at the recommended, the suggested motion that you have here. And it does talk about the removal of the vinyl siding, and the installation of the fiber cement siding, but we're saying, we're talking about removing the vinyl siding and finding out what's underneath it anyway, before we say go ahead and put the other siding on,
Yes,
correct?
please note, page 7, additional comments or recommendations may be presented by staff at the meeting, which is what was done. So the motion was put into the staff report before this meeting, and these are the additional comments or recommendations. So that's why I had recommended that you consider these additional things in your motion.
I think I lost where you are on the page. I'm on page 7. I was looking at the suggested motion down here. This is what I was looking at.
I was just pointing this out here. So the additional recommendation.
Oh, I see. Right. Well, I guess we need to have some suggestions as to how to make this motion so it works. So it works to their benefit and for our benefit too. I think we're saying that we'd like to know we'd like that siding to be taken off so we know what's underneath. I think that's the basic thing that all of us are thinking.
Ms.
Well, you know,
Bryant?
it's hard to make a motion about anything when we don't have all the information.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think I'll take a stab at it here, and then somebody can modify it if it's not correct. So I'll make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for modifications to each elevation in Phase 2, which include the removal and replacement of windows and doors with the removal of vinyl siding. As far as the installation of fiber cement siding, provided that below the removal of the vinyl siding, it's not less than 75% intact and it cannot be restored, that then they may install the fiber cement siding.
I'll second that.
Can you repeat back what I just said?
Okay, I need to, you got that written? I need to repeat the motion, so can I read off your paper?
I don't know if you can understand my chicken scrawl. I'll repeat it. So I'll make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for modification to each elevation Phase 2, which include the removal and replacement of windows and doors, removal of vinyl siding, provided that below the vinyl siding is 75% intact or cannot be restored, then they may install the fiber cement siding. And I'll allow staff, for the applicant to work with Christine to determine that that's the case.
All right, I'm not going to repeat all that, because I'll never say it right.
Well,
I'll
it
never
should
say what you
be,
said.
it should be captured by the secretary.
That's right.
Yes, yes,
It's
that's
being
right.
recorded as well.
That's right, all right. Was there a second to that?
I second the
Okay.
motion.
Carmelo seconds the motion, okay? All right. Any discussion about it? Okay. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes, okay? So that's good.
It's been approved, guys.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Ms. Bryant, for making that motion.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, all right. Okay, now, that was the only building we were discussing tonight. So we come to public comment. Does anybody out there want to make any comments? This is your turn.
Don't we have another
Nope.
motion?
All
have to
right.
approve? There were two. Was there two motions on that?
Okay, all right, so we go on to the individual board comments. So we'll start over here on this side, Patrice.
I only have one comment. We have somebody's birthday tonight. And she's very young, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Should we sing?
I think we should. Are we allowed to? I mean, I'm going to cover this while I sing, though. You ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
Vice Chair Brian.
Yeah, Vice Chair.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
So Bobby, do you have any additional comments?
I don't. Thank you, though, to the board
She's
for
dying of
singing me happy birthday.
Nice of you to spend the evening with us on your
Yes,
birthday.
It's dedication.
And no, I don't really have any comments. Thank you for electing me. I'm going to try to do a really good job this year. And I will make one announcement. Next Saturday at the library downtown, we are presenting A Day in the Life, which is about pioneer women of St. Cloud. They always ask us to do this every year, and so we're doing it again this year. Plus, I'm including first women of Osceola County. These are all women who were first in doing something. And I think it'll be pretty interesting for people to hear about these women. So that's my plug.
What was the date of that?
It's called, it's called A Day in the Life.
What is the scheduled date?
March 18th.
March 18th.
At 10 o'clock. We're upstairs in the Fisk Room. Okay, Trevor, do you have any comments?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
You
Tony?
guys said enough today.
Oh, you know I always have comments. Well, the first one I have is Christine, I will volunteer to help on May 15th. And I can help would the 3.5 hours be in addition to the 6 to 8? That would include it.
That's total.
I will volunteer for the full 3.5 hours.
Thank you.
So just get me the details as it gets closer. And the second, just bear with me, folks. At a future meeting, I would like the board to consider having, for discussion, or actually the chair can take care of this if she so desires, have her discussion on one of our agendas, the desirability of amending our bylaws, and let me explain to you why. Part of our little I had a long conversation today with the city's head clerk, and it seems that our bylaws are not consistent with how the city council appoints board and commission members. They do most of their appointments during the months of January and February. So it makes sense that we do our reorganization in March. And right now, our bylaws say that we should reorganize in January. Well, and you know what happened this year. We didn't reorganize in January. And then both our chair and vice chair were gone. Ms. Stark went to the legislature, and Mr. Clark, his term ended, and we didn't have anybody. And then we ended up with Ms. Horning needing to chair the meeting tonight because she was in seat number one. And so I had this long conversation with the city clerk, Ivy Dela Cruz. And the first thing she and I discovered, we were not on the same sheet of music. The set of bylaws she had were from March of 2016. And the set of bylaws we have are from March 6, 2018. And so when I kept telling her to look at paragraph Roman numeral 6, hers stopped at number 5. There were no Roman numerals in it. And she says, "What are you looking at?" So I told her. She got in touch with Stephanie Streeter, who then sent her the March 6, 2018, and she says, "You're right, what it says." But now what neither one of us know is if the city council approved either set of these bylaws. So she's checking on that, and maybe Christine, you could follow up on that, because I wore the battery down for the first time on my cell phone talking with her on the phone today, as we both tried to research this. So we really don't know, but I would like that added to an agenda item. It doesn't need to be this next month, it could be the following month, because we're in no hurry. But by the time this comes up, I'd like to know if either one of these sets of bylaws have actually been adopted by the city council. Thank you, Ms. Dalton.
Can I
So
add-
noted, and we will be sure to do so.
Can I add to?
Yes.
Ms. Jones? It may be helpful. I know exactly what you're referring to. So the set that happened in 2016 was when it was just an advisory board before we were historic preservation.
Oh, that's probably
So
true.
then when we established the Historic Preservation Board, which was in 2017, and we all sat on the board, we amended the bylaws. That was the first thing that we did.
Yes.
It did take us a little bit of time, and that was in 2018. So if you're looking to see if they were approved by the city council, it would be after March. So I would look in maybe April or May, because that's
Yes.
probably when it would have come up. And then addition to that, all of our dates of expiration are November.
Right.
So then there's that gap where we're just kind of coming when we're
Yes,
supposed to come
yes,
until
so we-
somebody gets told to come again.
Right, and so we need to figure out, all of our dates for expiration are in November. When should we really reorganize?
And I do serve on a couple of city boards. I don't know if something updated on the city council side, and that could possibly be where, because the appointments may have originally started taking in November, and then our bylaws we did. But in the last couple of years, I have seen it's happening actually in January, February. So I don't know if that's just due to when they
Yes.
put it on the schedule, or
and
something
Miss-
changed.
Ms. Dalton, you were saying something about me, you were reading off of something about me and how long I'd been here?
And according to the chart that I have, you're the longest-serving member
I
on
am.
the board right
Well,
now.
I just, after all, chronologically, I'm probably the oldest, too.
Well, the oldest serving.
Yes, I'm the oldest serving. But my
Longest serving, see?
yes, and my
Longest serving.
doctor tells me that I'm cognitively intact, so watch out, everyone. Anyway, that's all of my comments for tonight. And thank you, Ms. Horning, and Miss Bobby, I'd forgotten your last name. I was just telling you how cognitively intact I am, and all of a sudden your last name flew out the window. I'll get it right off my list. Miss Bryant, for graciously accepting to be our chair and vice chair.
Thank you.
Now I'm done.
Carmelo, do you have some comments to
I
make?
have no comments this meeting. Thank you.
I sucked all the window.
All right.
Member Horning, Chair Horning, I've got to
Yes,
get used to that.
yes.
May I add something? Just, I know I'm not under individual board comments, but I feel like I wouldn't be doing my duty as a trustee of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation if I didn't mention that we started a book club. So we are looking for people to join the book club. So we have one book each month that we go over. So you'll be too late for tomorrow's book club unless you've already read the book, which is Unsheltered by Barbara Kingsolver, I think is her name. So we have our first meeting tomorrow. So we're really excited about having a book club, and this book is fiction, but it's focused on an old house, and there's a lot of history involved
Where
in
does
it.
the
So
book club convene?
we meet virtually. So the meeting is held out of the office in Tallahassee, but it's via Zoom. So, and I will provide that information to the board secretary. So if any of you are interested, please
Okay.
join us, and she'll send you that information.
Among her other duties as assigned. Good job this evening, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, that's great. All right. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right, okay.
Second,
All right, the motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned for the night. Thank you very much for your attention this evening.
Yeah. All right, because I was.